Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular City Council meeting for the City of Farmers Branch. The date is December 15th, 2020. The time is 6 p.m. Our first order of business tonight will be our invocation and pledge of allegiance, which will be led by Councilman Driscoll. If you would stand.
Let's pray. Holy Father, as we celebrate the birth of your Son and our Lord Jesus, we invite your presence to be here for our City Council meeting tonight. And Father, we're mindful of how blessed we are. We thank you for the leadership we have here in Farmers Branch, for our council and mayor, and all of those who work to administer service to the citizens of this city. We thank you for the police department and fire department. We thank you for the administration in our offices here at the City Hall. Father, we ask a blessing of wisdom and guidance upon them. And Father, we pray for a special measure, a double measure of your Spirit and your grace to be upon us. And we beg for mercy concerning the pandemic in which we find ourselves. Bless those who are in the medical field working so hard. Comfort them. We pray this vaccine will be very effective, and we pray for the cessation of this pandemic just as soon as possible. We ask you now to bless and be with us in our meeting tonight. And Father, we pray that you will bring a special blessing of happiness and celebration to the occasion. We invite your presence. In the name of our Lord Jesus, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Brother Eddie. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the Texas flag pledge.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. You may be seated. Tonight's ceremonial item will be led by Mayor Dye. Mayor Dye, as I should have said at the beginning of the meeting, is departing to catch a flight right after this meeting, after the ceremonial items. And Mayor Dye, if you come to the podium, we have a very special farewell.
I must say, it's refreshing to see it from this side. But, you know, tonight, we're the recognition of Tom Bryson, honoring his 22 years of dedicated service to the City of Farmers Branch. And before I call Tom up, we have a short video, some photos and memories that we'd like to share with all of you at this time.
We'll be back in about 3 months with a look at the second quarter activity for 2016 as the phone continues to ring here in Farmers Branch. Hi Hi everyone, I'm Tom Bryson with your Farmers Branch Economic Development Update for the second quarter of calendar year 2016. It was a cold Saturday morning, but the brave among us still jumped into the icy water of the Farmers Branch Aquatic Center's Frog Pond in support of Special Olympics Texas for the annual Polar Plunge. Well, it's summertime and it's hot out here. What's even hotter is the activity right here in the Four Corners. Behind me. From Farmers Branch City Hall, this is the 116th edition of Council Countdown on FBTV. Hello again, everyone. I'm Tom Bryson. There is so much more in this budget, and we encourage you to check out all of the nooks and crannies of the proposed fiscal year budget at farmersbranchbudget.com. Welcome to Farmers Branch and our roadmap for success. Until then, I'm Tom Bryson. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you then. Until then, I'm Tom Bryson. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Until then, for everyone here at the City of Farmers Branch, I'm Tom Bryson. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom Bryson with your something. I'm outside Farmers Branch City Hall here. The lifeblood of this community, the residential, okay, as much, I got it. I'm Tom Bryson out here at what will be the B Street Urban Village. We'll have more on that in just a couple of minutes after the truck rattles in the background. And that will do it for the Economic Development Update. Check that. Hi, everybody. And that will do it for the Farmers Branch Economic Development Update while stuff blows.
Tom, you'd like to come up? So I have a proclamation, a recognition of Tom Bryson. Whereas today, we are recognizing the accomplishments of a long-term city employee, Mr. Tom Bryson, who will be officially retiring from the City of Farmers Branch on January 4th, 2021. And whereas he began work for the City of Farmers Branch as Director of Communications on January 4th, 1999, and has never looked back. During the past 20 years under his direction, the Communications Office has been the recipient of more than 60 regional, state, and national recognitions. And whereas Tom has served as the national president of the City County Communications and Marketing Association, where he was named National Communicator of the Year in 2016. And whereas he is also the past president of the Texas Association of Municipal Information Officers and has served on the Texas Municipal League Legislative Advisory Committee. And whereas Tom is a founding member of the advisory board for the Certified Public Communicator program at Texas Christian University, where he also serves on the faculty. And whereas Tom and his wife, Michelle, are proud parents of son Taylor, a cast member at Walt Disney World in Florida. In their spare time, Tom and Michelle enjoy traveling, watching an unhealthy amount of television, and traveling usually to their second home in Florida. Please help me in congratulating Tom Bryson in his new retirement journey. But before we do that, now, therefore, I, Robert Dye, Mayor for the City of Farmers Branch, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby recognize December 5th, 2020, December 5th, 2021, and December 5th, 2022 as Tom Bryson Day in Farmers Branch. So we got a few more things for you, but first I just wanted to share my appreciation for all that you've meant for the City of Farmers Branch. You know, we're in the business of serving people. It's not just our residents, it's the people that work here, it's the people that travel and visit here, but it's also the people that work for the city. And to spend 22 years of your career here, leading the charge, creating a wonderful communication vehicle that allows people to understand what we're doing at the city, to keep people informed, but to do so in a way that is constantly evolved, been innovative, and the fact that you received 60 awards for these efforts with a team of mostly two, you and Amanda. It's just tremendous, the recognition that we're able to get, because it promotes Farmers Branch, not only here locally in DFW, but in the state and national level, that lets people know the amazing things that are going on in the city. And so just want to thank you for that, and your time served has been a wonderful one. I know that you're going to enjoy your next life, I guess spending time in Orlando with your son Taylor in the second home, but I do want to caution you that there are several other theme parks in Orlando. They're wonderful. I recommend you maybe check them out, because you can always go to Disney World. We have a plaque for your years of service, which I want to present to you at this time. So from the city of Farmers Branch, Texas, with great appreciation to Tom Bryson for 22 years of exemplary service as communications director from January 4th, 1999 to January 4th, 2021. Thank you for your dedication, professionalism, and leadership at City Hall and within the municipal communications industry. So before I let you speak, because I know you've written a long one, I would like to introduce Jay Warren, Director of Communications and Legislative Affairs for the City of Arlington and President of the Texas Association of Municipal Information Officers, for a special presentation. Jay.
Well, thank you all. We're very excited to be here. I don't have a lot of whereases in what I'm going to say today, or a proclamation to declare a day for Tom, but we do have a special award that we do want to present to him. So Mayor and Council, thank you for allowing me to be here, and members of the audience here, as well as those who are watching at home in Farmers Branch. We're happy to be here to celebrate this day with Tom and his wife. I'd like to also introduce some of our colleagues. Tom is beloved within the Texas Association of Municipal Information Officers organization, and we have with us Belinda Willis, a longtime friend of Tom's, who is the Director of Communications in Mansfield. We have with us Molly Fox, who's the Secretary of TAMIO and the Director of Communications for Flower Mound, and then also Rachel Reynolds, who's on our TAMIO board, is here. She's the Director of Communications in Keller. We are delighted to be here tonight to recognize Tom. As we mentioned, he is a longtime member of TAMIO, and his work ethic, impact, and mentorship has made a difference to so many in our profession, not just here in Texas, but really across the entire country. A native of New Orleans, Louisiana, and a proud graduate of Louisiana State University and of the Disney Institute. And we thought about wearing our ears today, but couldn't locate them. Tom Bryson began his career in municipal government with the city of Duncanville, Texas in 1990, and after 6 years as a newspaper reporter in Northwest Louisiana, East Texas, and in the DFW area right here. As mentioned, in 1999, Tom made the move from suburban South Dallas County to the north and became the communications director for the city of Farmers Branch. At Farmers Branch, he has been responsible for all city communication activities and a variety of city media, including the city's internet presence and social media, video production, media relations, e-news propagation, special events and event assistance, print publications, and much, much more. And particularly in an office of two, you're doing a little bit of everything. So he is all under his umbrella for sure. As a testament to the quality of work that Tom and his team have produced over the last 2+ decades, the Farmers Branch Communications Office has been the recipient of more than 60 awards, both at the state level and at the national level, for their communications and marketing activities. Now, as I mentioned, Tom has been a member of the TAMIO and 3CMA boards, dating back to 1997 as a member of those organizations, but as a past president and board member of TAMIO, and as a past president and board member of 3CMA, and that's our national organization for public communicators. Tom's service to the TAMIO board came at a particularly critical moment for our organization, helping grow it in membership and its offerings, and leading the organization through some very important structural changes. Perhaps, though, one of Tom's most lasting accomplishments, outside of his family, would be his involvement in the genesis and the ongoing growth of the Certified Public Communicator program at TCU. He is a founding member of the advisory board and a graduate of its first graduating cohort. Now, this is an idea that came from a small group of people, including Tom, that has grown into a national certification program for public communicators, and it is making a huge difference in government communications and is literally changing the game for our profession. And it all came from a small group, including these two individuals standing right here. The award we are presenting today to Tom originated in recognition of public communicators who have distinguished themselves through their work and through their service. It was named in honor of Tamio board member Cheryl A. Soward, who made a significant impact to Tamio during a relatively brief tenure, cut short by leukemia in 2006. Now, this is not an award that we give out every year, but this year is one where we have an exceptional member who has stood out, and we on the board are so proud to have a recipient of the Cheryl A. Soward Communicator of Distinction for the year 2020. So it is for all of those reasons that I listed tonight, and frankly, so many more, that the Texas Association of Municipal Information Officers does hereby confer its highest individual honor, the Cheryl A. Soward Communicator of Distinction Award, to our friend and our colleague from Farmers Branch, Tom Bryson.
Oh my. I did not see that come. That's incredible. This has already been very long, so I don't want to make it a whole lot longer, but I have to call out some people in particular. And there are so many people that make the communications effort work. This does not happen in a vacuum. I'm happy to say that after 31 years in government and 6 years before that as a reporter, I have worked for two cities, done about 300 plus council agenda shows. And between covering government as a reporter and attending these things as a member of staff, I think I've been to about 800 some odd council meetings over the years. So. And written about 3.2 million press releases. But beyond that, seriously, there are so many folks that play a part in this. I would like Amanda Johnson and Kevin Slater, and I don't know if Rachel Johnson is here or not, but you guys come up here, please. Yeah, I know. Come on. Kevin, get up here. And Jeff Brady, who's over there with the camera right now. There are so many folks that make this work, but these are some of the primary ones of the core team. Amanda is our communications specialist that does so much heavy lifting on everything that we do every day. Kevin is our video producer that does the majority of everything that you see as we go forward. Also, Chris Nicolo, who is our contract engineer, does wonderful things for keeping us operating, and Roby Bass does some specialized work for us as well. So many people in the city manager's office keep us afloat. Between Amy Buchanan, Sarah Egan, Valerie Hawkins, Ben Williamson, John Land, and the ever-present Charles Cox, who is without a doubt the best city manager I've ever worked for. I know this is a list, but I got to say it. Every department head, past and present, that we've ever had has been so supportive of everything that we do in communications. The Internal Communications Committee, mayor and council, past and present, you guys have been just so incredibly supportive of everything that we do, and that cannot be done without your help and your support, and I'm forever grateful for that. All of our city managers over the years, our colleagues across the nation and across the state, and so many of you have come back tonight, which I appreciate. Katie Evans is here. Lauren Sanchez has been an amazing help to us. Allison Cook, Stephanie Hall. All of you guys, I know I'm not calling everybody out, and I apologize if I missed someone, but all of you guys have been so important to the effort, and I'm so incredibly grateful. I'm leaving you in good hands with the man in the three-piece suit over there, who's going to do a great job going forward. For now, all I can say is that this has been an amazing experience, and I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Good. Next, we have a report on study session items. That will be led by Councilmember Driscoll. Michael, take it away.
Well, I haven't been here 22 years, but I just wanted to add my congratulations. Job well done, Tom. Yeah, this is my first time to do this, so bear with me, folks. We had a lot, kind of a jam-packed study session, so I'm going to be kind of brief and hit some of the highlights. Item 1.6, council members Baumgartner and Lynn and Ratana discussed parking spaces there at that development. On item I4, Councilman Lynn was inquiring about whether we could replace or outsource the sewer jetter truck. We were moving I-11, John?
Moving I-11, yes.
Okay. Then on I-5, we discussed the traffic signal cabinets and the investments in that going forward. Then in A2, the 22-acre TxDOT property on LBJ Freeway, we discussed several issues there. We can't control the future of that, TxDOT does, but we discussed the maintenance and mowing expenses, safety issues there, and also Maybrook Drive, which is on the north side of that property. There's also maintenance, repair, and vagrants camping out on the property, and possibility of closing the road. Then item A3 was the liaison positions with the council, and I graciously just took over all of Councilman Bronson Blackson's commitments to the sister city, the Texas Municipal League, and the council or city expense committee. Item A4, we had a presentation from the finance director on Q4 fiscal year, and several different questions there. On A5, we discussed a zoning amendment. There's a lot of discussion there, and we're going to move that to a later item, or a later event, when we will have a session with the Planning and Zoning Commission to discuss a lot of different issues with that. Then on A5, just was a continuation of that. On A6, we discussed the Alpha Road Connector project over by Brookhaven College. And then A7, for future events, Councilman Baumgartner proposed for future action a non-binding resolution on trash bins and a non-binding resolution just on the cost and kind of future of the library renovations. I think he wanted to have that on the next election agenda. Also, Councilman Baumgartner would like to see a discussion amongst the council here on multifamily housing and affordability. Mayor Pro Tem Norwood would like to see a discussion on remediation of graffiti in the city. Councilman Lynn would like to have a discussion on business signage, and that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Driscoll. The next item we have is the mayor and city manager's report on items of community interest. Mr. Land.
Thank you very much. Well, for the past 22 years, Tom Bryson has been the voice of all things Farmers Branch. And as this is his last meeting and ours for the year, I have asked Tom, as a parting gesture, if he would deliver the city manager's report to the community.
Thank you once again. Before launching into this, I do want to say just one additional thing very quickly. I wrote myself a huge note so it wouldn't make a tremendous faux pas, but the greatest thanks for anything that has to do with any of this goes to the young lady with the questionable taste in husbands over here and the young man that's making magic tonight at Walt Disney World. So, thank you. And without further ado, the city manager's report to the community for the council meeting of December 15th, 2020. As most are well aware, the spiking COVID-19 infection rate in Dallas County has prompted major changes to Christmas events planned here in Farmers Branch. First, the good news. Skating Under the Stars continues on its regular schedule outside the Star Center. Christmas lights are on display nightly at the Grove, City Hall, Holiday Park, the Justice Center, Valley View and I-35, and at Liberty Plaza. However, canceled events include the annual Christmas tree lighting that was scheduled earlier this month, the holiday marketplaces, a Christmas Carol exhibit tours, and holiday craze. In staff news, Chief David Hale has announced that Eric Stokes has been promoted to Farmers Branch Deputy Police Chief for Support Services. He brings 26 years of dedicated law enforcement experience to the FBPD leadership team. He holds a master's degree in criminal justice and was named Farmers Branch Police Officer of the Year in 2000 and Supervisor of the Year in 2014. Congratulations to Deputy Chief Stokes. The city's Arts and Culture Committee is compiling a directory of local resident artists who live or work in Farmers Branch. The committee wants artists who specialize in composition, literary arts, media arts, performing and visual arts. Artists who want to join the directory can do so at discoverfarmersbranch.com. Our community recreation center is currently open at 50% capacity, but has no crowding issues at this time. Managers are offering a try it before you buy it program, which allows prospective members to use the facility free for 1 week before buying a pass. Bulk pickup next month will be January 4th through the 8th. This will include artificial Christmas trees and or natural trees with decorations, flocking, or lighting. And on the holiday schedule, all city facilities will be closed Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and New Year's Day. However, garbage and recycling service will be provided on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. City facilities will be open on New Year's Eve, but some with abbreviated hours. Beyond that, you can sign up for e-news at farmersbranchtx.gov to have current city news and information delivered directly to your email box. And that's a report.
Thank you, Mr. Bryson. You will be missed, and thank you for a job well done and probably the best delivered city manager's report that I have ever personally heard.
That was my bet with Charles.
Item H is citizen comments. This agenda item provides an opportunity to address any item that is not on the posted agenda. There's a 3-minute time limit for each citizen to speak with a reasonable limitation on speakers on one topic item with a maximum of 15 total minutes on the same topic. Anyone wishing to speak shall be courteous and cordial, and the City Council is not permitted to take action on any item raised. At this time, I do not have anyone signed up to speak, and we are not implementing the new procedures until January. So if anyone would like to speak, show yourself now. Seeing none, we will move forward. The consent agenda, we had some changes, so I'm going to ask Councilmember Lynn to make the motion on the consent agenda.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve the consent agenda with the exception of I-11, taking that off of consent, moving it to regular agenda item J8.
I have a motion from Councilman Lynn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Baumgartner. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Item J is for our regular agenda items. Item J1, consider approving a resolution authorizing the city manager to approve the purchase of 1 replacement grabber truck and 2 replacement tandem dump trucks.
Good evening, Council, Mayor Pro Tem. Tom Higgs, the Fleet Operations Manager here at the city, seeking approval to purchase 1 replacement grabber truck and 2 tandem dump trucks through Kenworth, MHC Kenworth, under the city's cooperative purchasing program with Sourcewell in the amount of $417,180. I do have a quick slide. So when we're talking about the, just to give everyone an idea, the grabber truck, more affectionately known in the branch as the green grabber. So these are the trucks that actually do the heavy lifting for solid waste department. And the other items here are the tandem dump trucks. These are the large equipment dump trucks, 12 to 14 yard variety, 1 for the street department and 1 for the utilities department. Both of these, all 3 of these vehicles meet the replacement criteria as established by the city, as well as the business outcome to plan, build, and replace and maintain public assets.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Mr. Hicks? Okay, thank you very much. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to on item J1.
Mayor, I move to approve Resolution 2020-167.
I have a motion from Councilmember Lynn.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Baumgartner. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Item J2, consider approving resolution number 2020-170, authorizing the city manager to execute a professional services agreement with Teague, Nail, and Perkins. And I would just say, Mark, before you start, are you going to take both items at item J1 and J3? Or,
Well, I will, I'll go ahead and talk about both of them, but then
then we can
you'll
do
have a separate vote on
Okay,
them.
thank you.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, you know, we've had discussions at strategic planning meetings regarding, you know, better walkability and a better experience for pedestrians around the station area. Well, this project that we're looking at here on Valley View Lane, which actually the limits of that would be from Dennis to Denton, is basically to go in there and put the road on a diet. I hate that term, but that's what it is. We'll remove a lane on going in each direction, narrow it down to 4 lanes, add some on-street parking, add some landscaping, add more wider sidewalks, and just make it a little easier to get around that part of town and enjoy what we have built in there with all the restaurants and everything else once they all get into place. Along with that goes Denton Road, Denton Drive. In that case, we've already been working on a preliminary plan that basically is going to provide for a bike trail and a pedestrian sidewalk that would actually meet up with a project that's proposed in the city of Dallas at our south city limits line and would go basically 1 block north of Valley View to Rossford. That project, along with Valley View, has been presented to the to NetCog for funding opportunities. And fortunately, we were approved through RTC for a COVID-19 infrastructure program, which would basically grant us roughly $5.6 million. For the Valley View project, we're looking at $3.2 million for infrastructure, and then the city would be responsible for roughly $1.8 million. The Denton Road project, which is about a $3 million project, we would be looking at, one too many pages here, roughly the RTC would grant $2.6 million, and the city would be responsible for roughly $500,000. So we're looking at $2.5 million that we're going to roughly be responsible for out of a 5.6, actually, roughly, the estimates are about an $8 million project total. So we feel very fortunate that we've got those funds available. And so what these items are before you are the actual design contracts. So the Valley View contract, and both contracts are going to be with Teague, and Perkins. We're going to keep the same engineering firm doing both projects. The design project for Valley View, the contract amount is $432,400. And all these funds will come out of the TIF2 fund, which actually expires at the end of this month. Therefore, I'm just requesting your approval to award that contract to Teague, and Perkins for $432,400. Too many numbers.
Thanks, Mr. Bentley. Do we have any questions for Mr. Bentley? Seeing no questions, I'll entertain a motion on item J2.
Mayor,
Oh,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Christoph.
No, go ahead. I move to approve resolution number 2020-170 as presented.
I have a motion from Councilmember Ratana, second from Councilmember Lynn. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Great, excellent.
Now, item J3. I'll entertain a motion on item J3.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve resolution number 2020-182 as presented.
I have a motion from Councilmember Ratana.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Baumgartner. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Also passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Bentley, but I think you're here for the next one. Item
Yes,
J4,
sir, I got one more.
consider approving resolution awarding a contract for sanitary sewer manhole rehabilitation, one of my favorite topics. Mr. Bentley.
Okay. In our continuing efforts to get rid of I&I, we need to, well, currently out of the city, we have 57% of our manholes are still brick manholes, which are an I&I problem. So what we're doing here is we have granted the council gave us additional funds in the I&I in our I&I budget. Therefore, we elected to step up our efforts in the manholes. We've normally only spend $100,000 to $150,000 per year to do that, which really doesn't get us a whole lot of manholes. So we elected to double that since we did have the funds available. And the amount of funds are just going to go into, we'll get as many manholes we can within that amount of money. So with that said, we are using the Government Purchasing Cooperative program, the buy board, and we're just asking that you award this contract to Fuquay Inc. in the amount of $299,982.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Bentley. I will just say for those watching at home, I&I is inflow and infiltration, and it can account for upwards of 60% of our outflow that we pay to the Trinity River Authority.
Correct.
And directly affects our rates that we pay and that you pay in your water bill. And Mr. Bentley and his team last year have been working to reduce that and save the city over $600,000. So you should be commended for that. And this project will help us go even further. So, Council, any questions for Mr. Bentley on this project? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Oh, and did I lose my space here? Item J4, Resolution 2020-178 for the sanitary sewer manhole rehabilitation.
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember Driscoll. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
All right. Thank you very much.
Mark. Appreciate it. Item J5, consider approving resolution number 2020-172, authorizing the city manager to purchase 2 Dell Power Store data storage arrays.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. Mark Samuels, the Director of Innovation and Technology for the city. The item before you is a request to purchase 2 replacement storage arrays from Dell. These are replacing 2 units that are about 5 and 6 years old and have reached the end of their service life. This was part of our budgeted 2021 budget process, and we're going to be procuring this using the State of Texas DIR contract. I do not have a presentation for you on this item, but I'm willing to entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions for Mr. Samuels? Wow, we are just not having the questions tonight. I'll entertain a motion on item J5.
I move to approve Resolution 2020-172.
I have a motion by Councilmember Baumgartner.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Ratana. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you
so much.
Item J6, consider adopting ordinance number 3668, amending Chapter 46, miscellaneous offenses of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Farmers Branch relating to establishments not licensed by the Texas Alcohol Beverage Commission. Ms. Fergus.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Tina Fergens, Director of Planning. So the proposed ordinance before you is a result of the city doing a review of its current regulations and not having an ordinance which regulates the on-premise consumption of alcoholic beverages within our community for establishments that are not licensed by the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission. And so, as you're well aware, we do have some banquet hall venues that are operating within our community, and as a result of not having an ordinance that would regulate the hours of consumption for on-premise, the staff is proposing an ordinance before council this evening for your adoption. We had a discussion back in November related to this. Just a quick overview. Again, this ordinance would pertain to establishments that are not licensed by the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission. For those that are business establishments that are wanting to operate as a bring your own alcoholic beverage venue, we are proposing to establish a permit requirement. The permit addresses many of the items that are included here, one of which is a criminal background check related to the operators. Once that permit, if it is authorized, it's not allowed to be transferred. So that way it ensures that each operator is subject to the background check. The permit does have expire after 1 year, and there's opportunities for renewal associated with that. The additional comments that we've had, particularly at the November meeting, surrounded the hours of operation. So within the proposed ordinance, we are proposing that the BYOB venues close at 2 o'clock in the morning every evening. And I know there was some discussion in study session about whether or not folks could consume beverages out in the parking lot or loiter out in the parking lot. The way the ordinance is structured is that the consumption of alcoholic beverages cannot occur out in the parking lot, and all the patrons have to leave the premises by 2:30 in the morning. There was also past discussion with council back in November about possibly restricting the hours of operation to midnight or 1 a.m. Upon further review of the ordinance and consultation with our city attorney, unfortunately, we are not. If we were to establish more restrictive hours of operation for the consumption of alcohol at these type of venues, that essentially is in conflict with other venues that are allowed to have alcoholic beverage consumption on premises. And also, state law preempts the city's ability to regulate certain aspects with respect to the consumption of alcohol. Since the state allows for Dallas County to have late hours alcoholic beverage consumption until 2 a.m., it's important that our ordinance is consistent with that provision in state law, because otherwise, if we were to adopt something more restrictive, our ordinance would not be enforceable. So the ordinance remains as it was proposed back in November. I know council was also potentially interested in receiving comments from other interested businesses that may be in this operating similar type venues. Excuse me. But nonetheless, so I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Again, the ordinance remains unchanged as it was proposed back in November, and staff recommends that council approve the ordinance this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fergens. Do I have any questions for Ms. Fergens? Terry.
Thank you. So just to be clear, and so folks at home also know that Section 4689 prohibits the consumption of alcohol in the parking lot or outside of the building.
Correct.
Okay. And 4692 dictates that the on-site security for any event, I guess, excuse me, it's only mandated for events over 100 people. Yes?
So you're required to have a security official for, and in this case, it's a licensed peace officer for each 100 persons in attendance, and then you have to have an additional licensed peace officer if there are 200 more persons in attendance on the, at the venue.
Okay, and those licensed peace officers are different from rented security guards?
I would presume yes, that they
I just want to make sure that everybody knows that. Okay, and the only issue that I saw regarding violating any of these provisions is up to a $2,000 fine for each offense, versus there's no provision for loss of permit or loss of SUP.
So in section 4693, there is a criminal penalty associated with if a person commits a Class C misdemeanor, if they operate a BYOB venue without a permit, or they violate provisions of the article, and it continues on with some additional provisions. But one of the requirements associated with the ordinance is that if there's an establishment that's operating their venue in direct conflict with this, that their permit is subject to being revoked.
SUP permit?
No, their permit associated with operating the BYOB establishment, not a specific use permit, that's separate.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have any questions from council? Seeing none, I have one person that had signed up to speak, Mr. Yoshio Heian. Is he in presently? I don't see him. Okay, bear with me. Since he is not here and he previously notified us by email that he may not be able to attend due to a previous commitment, I am going to read into the record the email that was sent to the entire council. So this is from Yoshio Heian. Good afternoon. We were planning to attend this evening's council meeting. However, our schedule may not allow. We have downloaded and reviewed Ordinance 3668, which will be decided upon tonight. We wanted to provide a little additional information in hopes that this could somehow be included in the ordinance. The business tenant, whom is the reason for this ordinance is under consideration, is operating in a manner that is not reflective of the type of businesses on the east side's needs or wants. And we have over 45 businesses in this area that are against the style, sorry about this, I'm having trouble seeing this, style of events that are being held in the facility, since they are a nightclub style, pay at the door, in addition to being BYOB. We realize that this style of business is allowed under different ordinances that are specific to the east side. However, the business in question is operating under a specific use permit as a banquet facility, and we do not understand how he is allowed to pivot the approved business model into something completely different. Additionally, we have attached photos of the food service that is taking place in the parking lot. Last weekend, Saturday night specifically, there was a food truck outside the facility until 2:15 a.m. It is our understanding that the city requires special permitting for food trucks to be operating in the city. They cannot just pull up to anybody's parking lot. We are also submitting a photo from last year when they took over part of our parking lot as well to serve food from a random trailer. In regards to the end time, we do not agree that the event should be allowed until 2 a.m., as we believe midnight is the ideal cutoff time. However, we realize that you are all experts and must be making the decisions based on information we are not privy to. We would urge this council to include in Ordinance 3668 that the business must comply with all city codes, including specifically food service. We do not see it noted that no alcohol is allowed in parking lots, but beyond the alcohol, there should be a restriction not allowing for loitering in parking lots or outside of the business as well. Forgive us if this has been included in the ordinance and we have overlooked it. We know firsthand that when this clientele is in the parking lots, it has been for criminal activity. We sincerely appreciate all the work the council is doing to ensure that we maintain and continue to develop a prosperous East Side. Thank you for your consideration in this matter. Vivian Morgan and Yossi Ohan. So, and I will provide that to the city secretary for attachment to the record. I have nobody else signed up to speak. I know this is a hot topic issue, so I'm going to allow that if anybody is here that is responsive to this issue, they can come forward and have their time now. Seeing no one, then Councilman Lynn.
So I'm sorry, I had
fine.
a note and I overlooked it. So I'd like to speak about enforcement, please, and who is responsible for the various areas of enforcement, because I don't think we have a food service inspector on duty at 10 o'clock at night, and code enforcement individuals are not working at night to go by and make sure that the parking lots are empty or that the buildings are not still being operated full of people. So who has the teeth to enforce this ordinance?
So last month when we discussed this item, it was determined that Chief Hale and the Farmers Branch Police Department would likely be the enforcement mechanism because they are the department that has personnel that are out on the streets and being able to observe during the late hours.
Okay. And they'll handle even issues such as food.
Well, I would like to think that they would bring that to our Director of Sustainability and Public Health's attention so that there can be follow-up action by the city with the appropriate personnel.
Okay, very good.
Mayor, I wanted to just a quick comment, and maybe this is something that Tina, you can help with. It may be a good idea too to send out some type of reminder to these types of businesses to advise them that if they ever do want to have some type of food service, like a food truck, that does not require a permit, that they're not serving food within the establishment, right? Because we know they need a permit for that. To remind them that they do need a permit, trying to err on the side of, they don't know what they don't know. And so at least giving them that opportunity to understand that there is something required. And so maybe a good idea to just try and send them something. And this kind of goes hand in hand with the question that I asked during study session, is just trying to figure out, to your point, Councilmember Lynn, what's enforceable. Obviously, we'd prefer these types of establishments to have some type of TABC license because there's some type of oversight. Unfortunately, there isn't. So although I know in the last meeting I did kind of prefer that they close a little earlier for those that don't have TABC, but I do understand the issues with enforceability, and so I'm glad we're doing something to ensure that our business owners are protected, surrounding business owners are protected. But I do think it's something that we definitely need to monitor, and hopefully we can bring this up again in the next 6 months to get an update as to how this is progressing and what issues, if any, still continue to happen in these types of establishments. So thank you so much, Tina.
Thank you. And just as a point of clarification in my mind, that the onus is on the food truck vendor to have the permit, not necessarily on the establishment, or is it on the establishment because they're operating in their parking lot?
It's my understanding the onus would be actually on the food truck vendor because they're operating within the city.
Right. Thank you. But we should also, I agree, that we should at least notify these venues that they should only be using licensed food trucks. Yeah.
So will I'm sorry.
Go ahead, please.
So will your department send out a notice to all operators that fall under this category, informing them of this new ordinance?
Yes, we'll do a coordinated effort on notifying the venues that are operating that we're aware of as BYOB establishments, so we can send them the ordinance as well so that they know what the requirements are.
And also to ensure that if they do have some type of, I think one of the issues that was brought up is that they were using the adjacent property owner's property to be able to have the food truck. So making sure that they also have to have permission, my understanding, from the property owner to be able to use their property.
Right, because that becomes a private property
Exactly.
issue.
Okay. Right. Yes, and maybe advising them as well. Thank you so much.
Great. Any further discussion? Then, Mr. Lynn, would you like to make this motion?
Mayor Pro Tem, I would move to approve ordinance number 3668.
I have a motion by Councilmember Lynn,
Second.
Second by Councilmember Baumgartner. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Fergus. J7, consider approving Resolution 2020-185 for the purchase of shelving for the library remodel renovation project. Mr. Williamson.
Mayor and Council, Ben Williamson, Assistant City Manager. Tonight I want to talk about one specific element in the library remodel project, and that's going to be the shelving that is there. So we're going to take the full journey from where we're at to where we're going and the vision that we're trying to capture with this. When you look at one element, we're not changing the footprint of the building. We're not making big structural changes. We're not adding on. When you look at one way you can change a library, when you look at feel, form, and function, it truly is the shelving. You don't just replace it, but where you place it, how it's placed, what it looks like, changes the whole inside of the building. Tonight I'm also joined by Denise Wallace. She's our library director. And then Paula Winstrom, who's going to be the factory rep for the shelving. So where we're at. This is an old floor plan, but it gets the point across when you look at the function of the library as how it was. So those same principles still resonate through it, which is perpendicular and parallel lines for the shelves. How much can we fit in the smallest amount of space? Essentially looking at the library as a book warehouse. Originally, a long time ago, that's what libraries were. They were just books. As libraries move towards the future, it's less about the books. They're still a critical piece of the library, but it's about the experience and the place. It's more than just the books. They complement each other and work together. So when you look at this, you see just the different pieces of the floor plan and how it is. One thing I want to highlight, though, is we talked about what we're trying to accomplish with the library. A big piece of that is line of sight and making sure the light permeates through the building, both natural and artificial. So Anelda is standing there next to one of our shelves. When we look at that shelving, we look at height, that's 7.5 feet tall. That's an incredibly tall shelf. And so if you look at how it's utilized, we're not able to technically utilize the top shelf all the time. We're not always able to use the bottom shelf all the time. And they do rise really up into the point of view to where you're not seeing the park that the library is in. You're not seeing who's in the library. So that represents a barrier and a challenge to be overcome. And that's part of the new shelving that will get us there as well. Downstairs, it's not much different. We still have the very tall shelving, 90 inches, 7.5 feet. Different library member, Paul, standing there to give a different perspective of just average folks standing next to our library shelving and how it's used. Downstairs is a unique challenge because of the way it's built and the way the HVAC system and lighting is. Those shelves almost come up to where the lights currently are. We plan on raising the lights, but again, it gives you perspective of how cramped it feels. And when you look at the overall floor plan, it's how much can we fit in here? How much can we hold? As many books as possible. And that kind of shows you where we're at with the current feel of the library. And again, line of sight's really tough in the bottom level of the library, and this will help alleviate some of those sight concerns as well. So when we look at the shelving, we're going to circle back to where we started. This is the upper level shelving in the adult section. While you're going to see different finishes here for either the ends, the interior, and the exterior, these decisions have not been made. Working with Fleet and Facilities, Kevin Minchow, he's got a consultant who's going to help ensure that we coordinate the colors of the shelving, work with the paint and the flooring that's going to be selected as the overall project. So these are just examples of what could be. But what's important to note, in your packet you had the full pages that showed the layout. You notice we're moving away from all parallel and all perpendicular lines. So in these red boxes you see the shelving elements and how they're being interpreted moving the upstairs adult section. Other changes that are going to be noticed as well is we're moving the circulation desk up. This again will give better line of sight for those folks entering and leaving the library. And all computer stations, and these are real computer workstations, not little cubicles that are tiny that you can't work in, to where 3 people can sit at each computer station. Each person is 6 foot apart, so we have the social distancing element as well, but you know how it is to work in a cramped space versus a space where you can bring work, spread it out, and work through and solve a problem. So those spaces are there as well. We kept the shelving on the walls too, but you start to see these 45 and 135 degree angled shelves there. So as you look where the circulation desk is, it really helps them see the full library from the circulation desk. The children's area is one of the more fun areas when you look at shelving. Whenever you have a child that goes to the library, not all children, but a lot of children, when they find a book they really like, they stop where they're at, go straight to the ground and start going through the book. So in some of these shelves, from an efficiency standpoint, it doesn't make sense. Like you're putting a bench in the middle of a shelf. Absolutely. So these 2 pink areas here are cutouts for benches inside of the shelving area to where children, as they're going through the books, have a chance to sit down and just enjoy that book at that moment. Again, none of the finishes have been determined. And you also see some other neat nuances with the children's area is these circular shelves. These are shelving units as well. When you see these circular shelving units, they are on casters. So when we talk about the flexibility of the space, this allows Denise and her team to move the shelves. The goal is for the caster shelves to be even lower than the 66 inches that we're going for on the regular shelving to make them easily movable if we should need to. In addition to the circular shelving, you'll also see ottomans that are placed in the middle there, so you can just sit down and start looking at books as you're going through the different sections in the library. So this is the proposed layout for the children's area. To the left gives a real example of what this shelving could look like. So we talk about accent colors on the end panels. Right now, they're predominantly wood grain. They don't have to be wood grain. So we want to add some elements of color and energy to the library, especially in the children's area. This allows for that. This is a closer look at some of the circular shelving. This is from downstairs. Again, you're going to notice the lines. They're angled. When you look at the proposed location for the circulation desk, this allows the librarians that are down there to, again, have full line of sight for the entire library that's down there. Our goal is to lower all the shelving height to 66 inches at the highest, so we're going from 7.5 feet to 5.5 feet. That's a dramatic difference. It's going to allow light to flow through the building and overall just enhance the experience and visualization down there. If anybody's been down there, you know it can have some dark corners. And it's also neat because the space is heavily utilized. And so this gives a glimpse of just one idea of how the study rooms will be put to use down there. So there's the green tables. We talked about adding additional study rooms. These are functional study rooms, not little bitty rooms that are all concrete with a solid wood door that are really hard to manage and control. These would be glassed-in walls that we can move additional in the future if we need to, that allow for better functionality in open spaces. It's really short and sweet and to the point as far as the presentations goes, but it really is all about the shelving, and it says a not to exceed in the resolution because the finishes have different cost. We have to fine tune that. We're gonna make sure Denise is completely satisfied with the shelving that will meet the needs of the library now into the future. So there's several elements that are still being considered, but we feel we're on the right track with the right style of shelving for the library that we're trying to get to that's got that form, function, and feel as you walk in the doors. Mayor and Council, I'm available for questions, as well as Denise and Paula.
Thank you, Ben. Any questions for Ben? Crystal?
I do. I have a couple of questions.
Microphone, please.
Oh, sorry. I love the variability, especially when it comes to the kid section and the colors and whatnot and the schemes. And I know they'll go hand in hand with kind of what our theme. And I'll defer to our librarian and her team on what looks best. But I think as far as I think the most important thing for me, and I think that based on the pictures that I saw, that I think you are keeping that all into consideration, is making sure that everything is movable. And I wasn't sure if just some pieces are movable or all the pieces, only because we're not able to create or have a new. Let me take that back. Because we're having to work within our means as it relates to our library, because we weren't able to add some other features and expand. I want us to be able to change or be able to be malleable whenever we want to make any changes to where everything is, because we don't know what's going to happen in 10 years. So I also want for our staff to be able to move things around based on what the needs are, based on what works and what doesn't. And so my first question was, are all of the pieces movable or just parts of them?
Just parts. And Denise and I had a very in-depth discussion about the why behind that. And so even at only 66 inches, the shelving is very, very heavy and it's difficult to move in that nuance as well. And then the other part, it is going to artificially start raising the height again and the casters. So we felt it best to place them right, get the curved pieces on casters so we can find flexibility in those spaces, but also just to program it right from the beginning. So when we looked at the different angles, these aren't the first iterations. This is probably about the 10th or 11th time we've gone back and looked at where these shelving pieces are and how they play into how folks use the library. And also just from the cost perspective, the casters and the elements to put those casters on, we start significantly increasing the cost of those because those casters have to be able to hold hundreds of pounds when you start loading these shelves down. But we did consider casters, and it was felt that it's best to get the shelving in the right places. And if we have to move stuff in the future, we can come in and find a way to move there are companies that will come in and move the shelving. Gotcha. But really we tried to keep most of our flexibility in the children's area because we know that's where we're going to get the most use.
Sure.
And then we're creating the maker space where the former art gallery was. So we're starting to add different spaces that have already pre-programmed flexibility. So all the tables in there will be on casters, so that room is completely movable around. The conference room that we used to have over there is going to turn into larger study rooms that will also have flexible spaces in them as well. So we tried to add as much flex space as we could, where we tried to avoid the challenge of having huge shelves on casters. And then part of the casters we saw too is that sometimes the casters stuck out when you looked at how they were set up, and it made a lot more challenges for us than return on investment, but we're going to keep it in a way that allows us to make future adjustments. These shelves don't have to stay where they're at. If there's a better place for them based on how the library grows, we'll find a way to get there.
Gotcha. And one thing I tried to find, and maybe I just missed it, was related to the height. I know that you said that 5.5 feet, but was that just for the children's section, or that also include the adult section as well?
So the 66 inches is the goal for the entire collection. The children's area will have some shelves that are naturally shorter. You know how it already has kind of the two-praised approach. They'll have some of the 66-inch shelves, but what's going to happen is all those 7.5 feet shelves are gone. And so that's really going to allow a lot more light and just line of sight for the whole library. But the children's area will have some that are shorter, but they will also have some of the 66-inch shelves. The goal is to remove all of them to 66 inches.
Gotcha.
At the most.
Perfect, thank you. And then my last question is related to cost and budget. And I think you mentioned that that you were going to have some more concrete estimates, or as it relates to the cost. Was that correct, or did I miss that?
The estimate's very close. The
Okay.
reason there's some variability built into it is because the different finishes have different price points. And so as the interior design decorator consultant come together with the shelving consultant and just the librarian team, and we look at the different finishes that are available, there's a different price point for a glass exterior finishing in panel versus a wood enamel, or wood, just different elements you can put in there. But what's nice about these shelves, the end panels are changeable. So if we want to change them out in the future, we'll have that ability to change the look and feel. But that's where the fine-tuning costs come from, as we really put everything down on paper. We're very close, but it's the finishes that are really going to give us that final number. We shouldn't need to go over the $365,000, but under the advice of the city's purchasing agent, in the resolution, it does allow the city manager to implement a change order if necessary, just in case, because what happens with these orders, we have to order these shelves months out. It's not something that's just sitting in a key or something like that, to where we can just go get more shelving. We need to be able to make changes pretty quickly in this instance. That's why you're getting this agenda item in December versus January or February, when on the timeline, the goal is to move with the install in March in coordination with the flooring and the painting. But
Sure. And I assume that you looked at different vendors when you were trying to select who the best choice would be?
Correct. So we did reach out to a couple different vendors just to understand their philosophies and see if they understood what we were trying to accomplish. And this was the vendor that worked well with us in trying to meet there. And they're on a cooperative purchasing agreement by board, so it makes it easier as far as the process goes. But just to get this one estimate took 4, 5, 6 meetings, coming in, tape measures, trying to understand the size of our collection, the direction our collection's going, because every library order is custom and different. We felt very comfortable with this vendor. She was the one that did the Flower Mound Library that we toured. She's also working with Frisco on their library project. So lots of local projects that resonate well with what we're trying to do in our library. So very comfortable with the vendor.
Got it. Thank you so much. That's all I have, Mayor.
Any other questions? Terry? Mike? Mike? I don't have a question. Got anything? Go.
So I think this is exciting. I know from looking at libraries early on, a couple years back when a lot of this stuff started, what resonated to me was light, bright, and airy. And it still resonates with me today. And so I see this as being a huge step forward in trying to get us that way on the inside, despite any exterior modifications or building modifications. So I'm glad that we're taking this is a big step, and I'm glad we're taking it, and I think it will serve the residents well.
I had just one question. Well, I actually have two questions. One, is it gone through the library board? Have they had a chance to look at this and give their feedback?
So absolutely. So earlier in December, we asked the library board to come together, and first we wanted to provide an update on the ADA assessment that was done at the library, because the first priority, the first tier in the library renovation was ADA and safety. And so we wanted to bring them up to date. So Kevin Minchow briefed them on the ADA report for the library, and there's a lot of little elements we're doing to make sure we meet those standards. But that was also an opportunity to share the overall progress with the project. They had lots of questions on some of the other elements. The shelving, very few questions, essentially positive feedback on the direction that we're going. From that meeting, though, we did find that there was an opportunity. This project's moving very quickly. Our goal is to have this done by April. So there's different information coming in on a daily basis. Based on the library board's feedback, we asked them to call another meeting 4 days later and select a subcommittee. So they selected 3 of their committee members plus 2 youth council members to serve as a sounding board to make sure as we're moving forward, we're not rushing too fast where there's not just a brake check to say, hey, is this the right decision? Is this the right direction? Because we know the goals, but there's several ways to get there. So it provides a check and balance on the progress we're making. And we have a standing meeting every Thursday night of the subcommittee, which allows us to bounce those ideas off of this subcommittee and get their feedback. And it's a nice, diverse subcommittee. You have 2 members of the Youth Council, which is great to see them participating in this. But they helped us really figure out the design of the makerspace. At first, it was kind of busy. Too much furniture is what they said. So we said, okay, let's talk through it. So I took their feedback, turned that into a new conceptual with our furniture vendor, and now we're moving forward with the makerspace designs. And so it's all moving quickly, but they're a great sounding board so that we'll still have library board meetings, but this is a way for us to exchange emails very quickly and use them as a sounding board for these ideas.
Good, thanks. I'm glad to hear that. And my other question, that I understood this we'd order now and then probably not get it until March, maybe install in April. How do you envision that going? Are we going to shut the library down for a week and do it, or are we going to do it section by section?
The goal is, so as this moves forward and we work through the contract, we'll navigate the details of everything arriving because it has to be coordinated with both we're trying to get as many efficiencies as we can. So we're going to do the flooring. We already need to remove the shelving and some other elements as well. So we're trying to utilize as much cost savings through an economy of scales that we can. So we'll get together, work through the logistics. But the goal is we will intend to shut the library down for a couple weeks. The goal is only 2, but we have to see how the logistics start to play out, which will allow us to, again, remove the existing collection, remove the existing shelving, put the new flooring in, put the new shelving in, start to put the collection back in, because it's a very long process to move those books. It's not going to happen overnight. And so there's a lot of pieces in play there. And then, of course, finally, we'll finish with painting. They're all going to happen very close together, and that's the goal, because we want to have as minimal of a service disruption as possible, but we've always been really creative in finding ways to still deliver service. And so we'll definitely use the library board and the subcommittee to help us find out what's the best way to move forward with this. And of course, we'll work with our communications team to ensure the public is aware of this process as well. We don't want the public to be shocked to go to the library and say, oh, it's closed. Yes. So we'll find a way to still deliver service, but it's going to be, when it opens back up after everything's done, it's going to feel like a whole new library based on the direction we're going.
Good. Thank you.
I just want to say I love the fact that you are engaging our youth council members. That's one of the main reasons why we definitely wanted to have this. I mean, what better way to create a space for youth than getting them having a seat at the table and helping create the space that they'll be using. So I just want to commend your team for making sure that they also have a voice on this. I think that's going to be so integral for them to be a part of the process too. So I just want to thank you for that. I think that's great.
And on the youth council, it's kind of neat, the members. It's the chair, Eleni Gomez, and then Emily Derrick, who actually went to all of the Century meetings prior to this for the previous discussions about the library. So it's 2 very strong members of the youth council that they speak up during these meetings and are giving their thoughts and lots of emails. So
I love it.
Good, thank you. Any further questions for Ben? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, move to approve resolution number 2020-185 as presented.
I have a motion from Councilmember Ratana.
Second?
Second from Councilmember Driscoll. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
thank you.
Item J8 is the item previously known as I-11. Resolution 2020-183, consider approving resolution accepting a neighborhood partnership program application for Terra Place condominiums landscape improvements in the amount of $7,329. Ms. Cook.
Yes, and tonight we have Mike DeValle. He is the HOA president for Terra Place. He's in the audience, but I'd like to present you some of the photos that are in your packet. The front entry and rear entry are under consideration. Here's the rear entry, existing and proposed photos. So the cost, we have 2 resolutions tonight. We have the main and rear entry costs totaling $9,160. The HOA would pay 20%, $1,832, and the city could participate $7,328, or the main entry only, with the breakdown of $5,664 as the total, with the HOA participating at $1,132 and the city at $4,531. So we have 2 resolutions tonight under consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Do I have any questions for Allison or for Mr. DeValle?
Well,
Not hearing any questions, but we need to determine whether we're going to do A or B. So, Terry.
yeah. So obviously, I'm familiar with the front entry because we drive by there quite a bit. But I can't tell you if I've ever seen the rear entry for this development. So, and I was just trying to pull it up here on my map to look, but was having some difficulty. So I don't know how much exposure that the rear entry gets versus the front, and whether the investment is worth it to do that portion of the project in addition to the front. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay. Mike, would you like to come up and discuss that? Name and address, please.
First time I get to say this address. Mike DeValle, 2816 Lineville, Farmers Branch. And by the way, I'm the HOA vice president, not the president. So basically, we looked into, the HOA board had been looking at doing some improvements essentially on the front entry, because we have a lot of children walking back through school, walking through that area, and we're having, really can't get anything to grow and stuff there. I brought to the board the possibility that this program was available to help enhance that area and, pave a way through there and beautify the area, because it is an area that is seen from the city quite a bit. I will point out too, if you, I guess that's on your computer there, on that left side is the old Sizzler building. And I've had some conversation with Allison. We'd like something nice there. So anyway, anything anybody can do for that, we'd certainly appreciate that. And then on the back side, the reason you don't see a lot of that, and the reason we have the ugly old Chase Bank building back there that's right beside that. It's getting a lot of graffiti and so forth. So somewhere, somehow, we've got to start making that look nice, and we want to be the first ones for the rear entry side of that. So we've got that there. We've got the Salvation Army that just shut down, and that space also is empty right now. So we're dealing with those two things there. So we'd like to get the front and the back done if we can, but if not, we're happy with the front.
Okay.
Any questions I can answer?
So, Mike, is the back the part that goes out to Lineville Drive?
Okay, that street it's really weird right there because it goes. Lineville ends at our property basically and goes into the shopping center, but somehow then it goes back into Wilmington and Harrisburg and so forth. And there's no houses on or anything on that Lineville piece that connects to Wilmington and Harrisburg and so forth.
Maybe, Allison, you could pull that up on Google Maps or something.
Absolutely.
Yes, that was my question too, because it looks like it's at a T, and it
is a T.
Yeah, and it keeps going, so you'd think it'd be like a drive and a lane, but.
You almost think it's a different street or something, but it's called Lineville there still too.
While she pulls that up, I will say, I think that you made a great point. That development has needed some TLC for a really long time, and I know that it's a priority for the mayor too, because we've been talking about that and what can we do and who do we need to meet with. So, but I have no reservations with the plan. But to your point, Terry, I think just depending on, this may be not the right time to invest something like this until we figure out what's going to happen. But I definitely think that we should do, definitely in favor of the front end, because there's a lot of traffic. You see that. I see Terra Place all the time. Mm-hmm. So Mike, I think, bringing this to your HO, I think this is a great idea, and I'm definitely in favor of it. But I'm leaning more towards just the front entrance.
So let me ask you, Councilwoman and Allison, if we did the front and agreed to a grant program for the front now, could they bring the rear of the property to us at another time?
Yes, but pending funding, They absolutely could.
Yeah.
Absolutely could.
So y'all do something with the old Chase Bank building, and then we can do a project in the back.
And the Sizzler.
Yeah,
And the Sizzler.
And the Sizzler.
we would love to do that. but-
Yes.
Yes.
And I am working on something for the.
And it wouldn't hurt my
Sizzler.
feelings that the rent, I don't care, I'll say anything, but it wouldn't hurt my feelings about the rent-a-tire either.
Okay, so I'm getting a sense, anybody have a strong opinion about it other than has been already expressed? Sounds like we're leaning towards option A? Or option, is that option B? Let me see. Option B is, no, it's both front and back. Option A is the front only. Michael?
In favor of the first option, dealing with the street on Josie there.
Street. Terry?
That's a main avenue in the street,
A.
city.
A. Okay, good. Then I'll entertain a motion on approving option A for the neighborhood partnership program.
We can talk about it. Okay.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number J8,
No,
actually J8, resolution number 2020-183.
Yes.
As presented, with making sure that we approve option A as presented.
thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Baumgartner. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. So option A, Mike. Thanks for bringing it forward. We did have a closed executive session, and we had 3 actions as a result of that meeting. So I'll take them in order. Councilmember Ratana.
I make a motion for the purchase of 2646 Greenhurst Drive. I move that the city manager be authorized to take such action on behalf of the city as may be reasonable and necessary to purchase or authorize the purchase of Lot 53, Block T, Valwood Park Edition, third installment, also known as 2646 Greenhurst Drive, for a purchase price not to exceed $163,500 plus all closing and acquisition costs, and to sign or authorize the city's agent to sign such other agreements, documents, and any amendments thereto as the city manager, in consultation with the city attorney, deems reasonable and necessary with respect to the closing of said transaction.
I have a motion from Councilmember Ratana. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Baumgartner. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Councilmember Driscoll.
Yes, I have a motion. I move that the city manager be authorized to take such action on behalf of the city as may be reasonable and necessary to purchase or authorize the purchase of Lot 10, Block 5, 16th installment of Valwood Park Edition, also known as 13904 Hartside Place, for a purchase price not to exceed $176,750, plus all closing and acquisition costs, and to sign or authorize the city's agent to sign such other agreements, documents, and any amendments thereto as the city manager, in consultation with the city attorney, deems reasonable and necessary with respect to the closing of said transaction.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councilmember Driscoll. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Baumgartner. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Councilmember Driscoll, last one.
Yes. I have one other motion. I move that the city manager be authorized to take such action on behalf of the city as may be reasonable and necessary to purchase or authorize the purchase of Lot 13, Block 22, Valwood Park Edition, 11th installment, also known as 2837 Ermine Way, for a purchase price not to exceed $187,500, plus all closing and acquisition costs, and to sign or authorize the city's agent to sign such other agreements, documents, and any amendments thereto as the city manager, in consultation with the city attorney, deems reasonable and necessary with respect to the closing of said transaction.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councilmember Driscoll. Do I have a second? Second from Councilmember Ratana. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Also passes unanimously. So that concludes our agenda items for today, and I've been notified I no longer need a motion to adjourn, so I declare this meeting adjourned.